The wind blew fiercely, bringing with it echoes of forgotten times. The story of this man is no ordinary tale. He was born in a small town where the mountains touched the sky and the river meandered like a vein in the earth. His life began like that of so many others, with simple dreams and humble aspirations. But what made this man different was the course his life took when tragedy struck his home. He was young, barely a teenager when war came to his town. It was not a glorious war, nor one filled with epic heroes. It was a silent war, made of difficult choices and daily sacrifices. In those days, the man who was known for his kindness and joy was forced to make decisions that would mark the destiny of his life forever. The war not only robbed him of his peace, but also changed him profoundly. At first, he fought with all his might, not only against the army, but also against his own fears. Every night, when the sun faded and darkness spread over the battlefield, he found himself wondering if he would ever be the man he once was. But destiny had no intention of letting him go back. Days turned into weeks, weeks into months, and the scars, both physical and emotional, began to accumulate. Despite everything, he never lost hope. In the midst of devastation, he found something that many could not: the ability to endure, to keep moving forward despite it all. There was something about him that set him apart from other soldiers. While many succumbed to despair, he maintained his humanity. In the midst of brutality, he was able to see the beauty of life, even if it was just a ray of sunlight breaking through the clouds. His life was a testament to what it means to fight, not only against the enemy, but also against oneself. However, the price of his endurance was high. In a crucial battle, he lost everything he had left. His home was destroyed, and those he loved were scattered by the wind like dust in a storm. Even so, he did not give up. His journey did not end there. In fact, it was only the beginning. This lost hero, far from finding glory on the battlefield, began to search for something much deeper: the meaning of life. During his time in exile, he found solace in the words of ancient sages. They spoke of a concept that was repeated over and over again. Strength does not reside in the body, but in the heart. And it was in that moment that something inside him began to change. The war, which had initially stripped him of everything, began to forge him in an unexpected way. He realized that true courage was not in winning battles, but in surviving losses, in getting back up every time the world seemed to collapse. This was the moment he stopped being simply a man fighting to survive. He became a man who, although scarred by the wounds of life, was ready to face whatever came his way with renewed strength. The story of this man is not just about war and sacrifice, but about rebirth, about the human capacity to adapt, learn, and move forward. As the days went by, the man began to see the world in a different way. The war, with all its atrocities, had left a deep mark on him, but it had also given him a perspective that few could understand. He began to wonder if the struggle for survival was all that life had to offer. He felt trapped in an endless cycle of suffering and fighting, but something inside him told him there had to be something more, something greater than the physical battles he had fought. One day, while walking alone along a desolate path, he found an ancient scroll lying among the dry leaves. At first, he thought it was just another object forgotten by men and time. But when he picked it up and unfolded it, he realized it was no ordinary piece of paper. It was filled with words written in such careful calligraphy that each letter seemed to hold a story of its own. The words, though ancient, seemed to resonate within him as if they had been written just for him. It read, "He who does not pause on his path will not discover the true purpose of his life." This message touched his soul. For years, he had been in a constant search for something more, something that would give him a real purpose. The war had changed him, yes, but it had also left him with a profound sense of emptiness. The man began to wonder if perhaps, just as his life had been shaped by circumstances, the time had come to take control of his destiny. The war had been only a part of his story, but now he had to seek something that would give it true meaning. With the scroll in hand, he sat under a tree and began to read the passage over and over again. Every time he read it, he felt something ignite inside him. He decided he could no longer continue living in the shadows of the past. The war had made him strong, but it had also caused him to lose himself. This moment was his opportunity to change. He knew he needed to find something beyond fighting and survival, something that would offer him peace something that would make him feel whole. He then decided that he had to walk away from everything he knew. He no longer wanted to live just to survive. He knew that life had to offer something deeper, something that would connect him with his humanity and his purpose. He left behind everything he had been, leaving behind the fear, the pain, and the anguish of the war. He began his journey in search of answers, with a heart full of hope and an unwavering determination. His mind was no longer trapped in the scars of the past. It was ready to embrace whatever the future held. This shift in perspective was the first step toward a new destiny. As he moved forward, he found a renewed strength within himself, a strength that came not only from his body but from his soul. He had left behind the darkness of the war and had begun to walk toward the light of an unknown future. Was this the true purpose of his life? The search for peace, wisdom, and profound meaning? Only time would tell. But what he knew for certain was that he was no longer going to let circumstances dictate his destiny. His journey was not easy. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into months. As he traveled through unfamiliar landscapes, the man began to face his own loneliness. Although he had left the war and the painful memories behind, he realized that the true struggle was not external, but internal. He often found his mind wandering back to the past, to unhealed wounds, to the decisions he had made in the hope of redeeming something that perhaps could never be repaired. But a part of him knew he could not stay trapped there. He knew that if he wanted to move forward, he had to find a path to inner peace. It was in a small town on the edge of a lake that his life took an unexpected turn. An old man, known in the region as a sage of nature, invited him to stay for a few days in his humble home. This man, with gray hair and a face wrinkled by the years, seemed to have a profound understanding of things that could not be seen with the naked eye. Something in his gaze captivated him. The old man was not a man of grandiose words, but in his eyes there was a calmness that the young man had never experienced. It was as if the old man knew something he did not yet understand, but yearned to discover. During the days he spent there, the man began to learn lessons he had never imagined. The old man spoke to him about nature, about life, and about how everything around him was connected. He took him to the nearby woods and showed him how plants, though different, grew together in harmony, how every tree had a purpose, how the seasons of life ran their course without anyone having to force them. As the days passed, the young man began to understand something fundamental. Everything in life had a purpose, and all beings, including himself, were part of a much larger whole. One afternoon, while walking near the lake, the old man stopped and looked at him intently. True peace, he said, is not found in escaping the past or seeking revenge. Peace comes from accepting what you have lived through, learning from it, and allowing those experiences to transform you into something better. Only when you can embrace your past without fear, only then will you be able to find the peace you so deeply long for. Those words resonated in the man's heart. He had spent so much time running from his past, trying to escape the scars of war, that he had never considered that those scars might be the very things that made him stronger. He could not change what he had lived through, but he could change what he decided to do with those memories. Peace was not about forgetting, but about integrating those experiences into his being and moving forward with wisdom. The old man gave him one last lesson before they parted ways. True freedom, my son, is not doing whatever you want at all times. True freedom is the ability to choose how you react to what happens to you. No one can control the wind, but you can learn to sail with it. With those words in mind, the young man left the town. He had found something he had never expected, a profound understanding of himself and of life. He was no longer looking for answers on the outside, because he had learned that true transformation happened within him. Although the road ahead was uncertain, he was no longer afraid. He had found a purpose, not in great deeds, but in the stillness of his soul and in the acceptance of his personal journey. Years passed, and the man continued his journey. However, something had changed within him. He was no longer the young man tormented by the past, nor the warrior in search of a final battle. He had transformed into a wiser being, more at peace with himself. His heart was no longer filled with unanswered questions, but with a tranquility he had found after traveling a long and arduous path. finally, after many journeys, the time came to return to his home, to the place where it all began. The town he had left behind with its dusty streets and wooden houses now seemed like a foreign, distant place. Everything he had experienced in those years had given him a new perspective. The people he knew no longer seemed the same to him. His own eyes saw something different in them, something he had not perceived before. When he arrived at his old home, he realized that much had changed. The land where he had once played and learned was now overgrown with weeds. But the man no longer saw this as a sign of abandonment. He saw it as an opportunity. It was then that he understood that his journey was not just about finding peace for himself, but also about contributing to the world around him. His transformation was not just for him. He had to share what he had learned with others so that everyone could find that peace he had found in his heart. He approached the community, and with a renewed serenity, he began to speak about everything he had learned. He did not do it as a preacher or an expert, but simply as someone who had lived a profound experience and wanted to share it. He spoke about the importance of connecting with nature, about how each of us has a unique purpose, and how, despite the challenges, there is always a way to find inner peace. At first, people looked at him with skepticism. How could someone who had been a man of war, a man scarred by fighting, have anything to teach about peace? But little by little, his way of living began to speak louder than his words. His serenity, his patience, and his ability to listen to others became a living testament to what he had learned. The hearts of those around him began to open, and more people began to seek the same peace he had found. However, it was a conversation with an old man, a man who had lived as much as he had, that marked the definitive change in his life. True peace, the old man said, is not just stillness. Peace is the acceptance of all that we are, even the shadows we carry with us. Only when you accept what you were, what you are, and what you can become, will you be truly free. Those words were like a final revelation. The man understood that peace was not just a state of being, but a constant journey. It was not about finding a perfect place or escaping difficulties, but about finding serenity in the midst of chaos, acceptance in the midst of suffering. Only when he was able to embrace his own past, including his mistakes and the shadows of his soul, did he find true freedom. With this understanding, the man decided to stay in his town, not as the man he had been before, but as the man he was now, someone who had learned to live in peace with his own history. He dedicated himself to teaching others, to sharing what he had learned, but always with humility, knowing that the journey toward peace was a path that each person had to walk for themselves. Over time, the man began to see how his presence in the community slowly transformed those around him. The people, who initially saw him as a stranger, began to see him as a leader, not in the traditional sense, but as someone who had found something everyone desired: inner peace. His story began to inspire the young, the adults, and the elderly alike. Many of them also wanted to learn how to live without the constant burden of despair, guilt, and fear that he had lived with for so many years. The man no longer felt the need to constantly talk about his journey, but people came to him looking for answers. One day, a young mother, her eyes filled with worry and anxiety, approached him. She said, "I have heard about you. They say you have found peace, that you have found the path to healing. I don't know how to move forward. I am afraid that my children will grow up in a world where they will never find that peace you have discovered. What should I do?" The man looked at the young mother, his eyes shining with a calm light, as if he already knew exactly what he needed to say. "Peace," he began, "is not a destination we arrive at, but a way of living. You and your children do not need to wait until you find a perfect place. Rather, you must start living peace right now, in every small act, in every thought, in every decision you make." He leaned slightly toward her and added, "What matters most is not what happens to you, but how you choose to react to it. Your children will learn more from you by what you do, by how you treat them, by how you face your own challenges, than by anything you tell them. Peace begins within you, and when you find it, those around you will find it too." That conversation marked a change in the young mother. She began to see life with a new perspective. She could not change the world, but she could change the way she faced problems, and through that, change her home. The man had planted a seed in her heart, and little by little she began to cultivate it. The man also realized that, despite the struggles he had faced, there was something greater than his own personal peace. As time passed, he understood that his journey had not only been a path toward personal healing, but a calling to help others find their own path to peace. The wisdom he had acquired during his time in exile was not just for him, but to be shared with others. Life, in the end, was not about the peace one could find only for oneself, but about the peace one could offer to others. He left his mark on the community in a way he could never have imagined. Not through material achievements or wealth, but through the wisdom he shared, the serenity with which he lived, and the seeds of peace he planted in the hearts of others. True greatness, he finally understood, did not lie in being remembered for great deeds, but for the peace left behind, for the way the lives of those around you are transformed. Years passed, and life in the small town ran its course, but something had changed forever. The community, which had previously lived marked by the scars of the past, began to flourish in a way they had never imagined. Neighbors started helping one another in a genuine way, without selfishness, without resentment. Children grew up with a sense of inner peace that can only be passed on when adults live in harmony with themselves and with others. It was as if the man's teachings, those he had shared with such dedication, had taken root in everyone's lives. One day, many years after his return, the man sat for the last time under the tree where he had made the decision to change his life. His health was no longer what it used to be. Life had left its mark on his body, but his spirit was stronger than ever. He looked toward the town he had helped transform, feeling a deep gratitude for everything he had experienced. In his heart, he knew he had found the peace he had searched for so earnestly. The war, the struggle, the losses, everything he had suffered no longer had power over him. He had learned to live with it, to let it go, and to build something greater from the rubble of his past. At that moment, a young man, a boy who had grown up watching the man, approached him. "I've been hearing the stories about you, about what you did for the town. How did you manage to find that peace? How did you manage to move forward after everything you went through?" The man looked at him with a calm smile. "Peace is not something you find at the end of a road, son. It is not something achieved after overcoming all difficulties. Peace is something you choose every day, at every moment, even when everything seems to be against you. The key is not in what happened, but in what you do with it. Every day you have the choice to give up or to keep fighting for what is important. The secret is to keep moving forward with love, with purpose, and with gratitude, even when everything else fails." The young man nodded, finally understanding what the man had meant. Peace was not a goal. It was not something that could be reached just by being strong or brave. It was a choice made every day, a choice of love and faith, even in the darkest of times. At that moment, the man felt that his mission was complete. He needed no further recognition or glory. The legacy he had left was much deeper. He had transformed the people around him. He had shown them how to live with hope, how to find peace in the midst of the storm. And that peace would continue to live in the heart of every person he had touched. With one last look at the horizon, the man closed his eyes, feeling a profound peace. A peace that can only be found when you have done everything you could, when you have given the best of yourself and shared your truth with others. In that moment, he knew his journey had ended, but the journey of everyone around him, the community he had touched, was just beginning.